Hey everyone, I'm Cappy. Welcome to Beyond the Plate. This is a podcast where we sit down with the world's culinary elite to explore their journey into the food industry and the social impact they have made in their communities. If you're new to the pod, welcome. If you've listened before, we're glad you're back. On today's episode, we sit down with Chef Vikas Khanna. Now, if you don't know Vikas, his story sounds like a Hollywood blockbuster, and that's because it could be one. Let's just say this is a man who has overcome incredible adversity throughout his life to literally become one of the world's most influential chefs. Let's go beyond the plate. All right, Chef, for our audio test, we like to have our guests name 5 of something. For you, let's name 5 spices everyone must have in their pantry.
Absolutely. Cumin, fennel seeds, turmeric, cinnamon, and dried ginger powder.
Love it. You sound good. Let's do it. Today's guest is an internationally acclaimed chef, filmmaker, author, and humanitarian. He's a chef and partner at Bungalow in New York City and one of the first Indian chefs to be awarded a Michelin star in the U.S. He was once a homeless immigrant and has risen to prominence among elite chefs, including being named one of the 10 most influential chefs in the world by Deutsche Welle and Vanity Fair Italia. He's the host of MasterChef India, the author of over 37 books. When does this guy sleep? And that's just scratching the surface. I could spend an hour just listing his accomplishments, quite frankly, but I'd rather get going and talk to him. So please enjoy this episode as we go beyond the plate with Chef Vikas Khanna. Chef, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Cappy. Good to be here.
Excellent. Quite the journey. Honestly, can we just start by giving us a glimpse of a day in your life? What do you do when you get out of bed?
As a thumb rule, I call my mom first thing before I see any messages. When you run restaurants in New York, there's always a tragedy when you wake up. Something bad has happened. One staff is calling out. We had some guest complaints from last night. It just doesn't end. So I want to wake up very peacefully. I call my mom the first thing, and it's around a late evening for her in India, and that's how I start my day. She has a little dog, and she'll tell me everything what the dog did and how naughty he's been and everything. That's how my day starts. Totally disconnected from the real hustle of New York City or the restaurant world.
I like that. How incredible. Some people know you as a chef, others as an author. And should I point out, not only cookbooks, people know you from TV, film, your humanitarian work. If you're at a cocktail party, and someone says, what do you do for a living? What do you say?
I just make it easy for them. I just say I'm a chef because it's the cooking which has given me so many different wings and so many different voices to express myself. I feel it's very rare for someone from where I come from to be on this platform. I don't take it for granted. I like to push things which I believe in. So I think it was all an organic growth of the branches, but the root remains being a chef.
Okay, so we start our episodes talking a bit about our guest's childhood because oftentimes or most times someone's past helps to shape their future. But your story, quite frankly, is more like a Hollywood blockbuster. You've been overcoming adversity since birth, you know?
Yeah. I was born like that.
Yeah, right. I mean, doctors said you'd never be able to walk. Can we just start there?
Yeah. The time I was born. So, at that time in my hometown, kids were not born in hospitals. Many of the kids were just given birth at home. It's a small town in North India, Amritsar. And when the midwife saw me, she consulted a doctor, and the doctor came home and he said that there's the bad news and good news is that he has club feet. And my family had no idea about what the club feet means. At the same time, same day, there was a huge war beginning in my hometown between India and Pakistan. And we are right on the border of Pakistan, Amritsar. And there's hospitals are shutting down, but my mom couldn't get that out of her head. And mom said that I don't know what the good news was till now. That she said that it was weird because she couldn't get her head wrapped around the fact that my feet were inclined towards inside and I will never be able to walk properly like other kids. So I was just 1 week old. She puts me on the train with her and she takes me to New Delhi, which is the biggest city close to my hometown, and 9-10 hours journey during the war. This is all happening when the war is going on. And she takes me to Delhi to feel that she felt that the doctors in Delhi would know better about it. And there was was an aunt. She helped us out. And I still have an image of her carrying me. I'm just like recovering from surgery. And I'm just like 2 weeks old, 2 or 3 weeks old. It's cold winter afternoon sitting outside. And the aunt is so proud that there might be hope for me. But many people said that, you have to wear braces and wooden shoes. And at that time, there was no internet. So, I don't blame ever my parents for not knowing what was wrong with me. And they did the best what they could do, and they still do. My mom still does the best for me. And I feel that it was that whole thing which got me involved to be a child which was an introvert, extremely shy, always not counted in the classrooms, almost invisible kid, except for the thumping of the wooden shoes and those braces. They were ugly shoes, and they were used to come from China. And many times my feet will be growing. I was in 7, 8 years old, and my shoes will always be tight. That's the only feeling I remember of schools. Wearing the shoes in the morning and pushing them through those wooden shoes was something which I hated every single morning. But the mom would tell all the relatives that they're like, oh, what will you do? He's never going to get married. Like the typical attitude of small town thinking that he's never going to be able to be normal, never going to have friends. And he's never going to be able to walk. Mom said, this thing I know, that he was not born to walk, he was born to fly. So you don't need to define that. But I thought it was funny analogy of her. And that is what led me to the kitchen. I felt that the kitchen was the only place which was active, profound. There was always something going on, an activity with my grandmom. And we had a huge family. All the time there were people around us. And I became her little free intern.
Your mom sounds like an incredible human.
She's incredible. She wanted to be a pilot all her life. And in 1969, they refused women to be pilots in India. And she always had that thing in her heart that I need to fight for people who can't live their dreams. It's always been with her.
You wore these braces until you were 13?
13. The doctor said that I was petrified. I felt that I will not be able to. And he said, you're perfectly fine. We need to work around removing them. My feet looked a little different than everybody's feet. And it was at the Golden Temple. First time I realized that I was not different than anyone. And that place is different. It's a place which it's a Sikh shrine in my hometown. And I saw so many people from different parts of the world and coming with their own issues. And that's the only observation as a childhood. It remains so strong in my head. When I saw multi-billionaires sitting in the same row, cooking and serving and cleaning, and someone where the distance between them, their life and death is just that one meal. I saw them sitting side by side, and I'm watching the power of food. It's such an equalizer in the society. It doesn't believe in any differences. It believes in the commonality that we are born human. We are on this planet for this experience of food is one thing. We all need to survive. You could be a billionaire, you could be Elon Musk, or you could be me. We both need food. And I felt that is my calling. And I totally stuck to that faith even today. I'm 53. And I feel that one moment was my defining moment when I felt equal because I could make a round bread. That was my only achievement as a child. Making a perfectly round bread.
Not easy.
That's the only thing I focused on. People don't realize you could sit, you could squat, and you could make that round bread. And nobody would judge you after they saw the bread. They're like, oh, wow, the guy is a superhero.
Other than a Michelin star, what did you dream about as a kid?
I never dreamt of Michelin star. A lot of people ask me that question, from such a small town, by lanes of such a small city in India. How did you even know about Michelin? There was no way we could know about. There was no internet. I started my business very early when I was 13 years old. We would take fried breads and chickpeas to a school and sell it with my grandmom and my mom. That's the only time I felt that, my God, I can do this. In the back of her house, there was a small beauty parlor, which was like a lady used to run, typical beautician and all. And she left all of a sudden. And there was a small room in the back of the house. And I started doing that with my mom and grandmom. And it was insane, absolutely insane to see that how that small business was my training ground. And one of my uncles who used to live in Ireland at that time, he came and he saw me working, just making 4 dishes I knew how to make. Fried cheese, chickpeas, the breads, the kulchas in the oven, and fried bread, similar dough. And that's it. And I was like, I am a god in the kitchen. That's what I used to feel. And these women used to love it because I used to give them everything for free to eat. And he saw me and he said, why are we not training him? He is the one who suggested me. that I should go to cooking college. And he's the one who took me to New Delhi for the hotel experience for the first time, to see that there's beyond the food I was cooking, there was something beyond that. And I remember going to Maurya Sheraton, which was a very well-renowned hotel at that time in Delhi. And this is the first time me experiencing, I'm 16, first time me seeing food beyond my city. I had never seen any dish which was created in any different manner. I saw pasta, I saw pastries. I don't know the food exists with those boundaries. I thought that was it I knew. And he said, very few kids are born with a passion. Everyone just believes in what people tell them, and they keep doing that all their life without ever discovering what their passion is. Then a lot of people helped me to get admission at my college. Especially the principal fell in love with me in the college, and he loved the story, and he felt guilty of not taking me in the college. I didn't speak a word of English, and I think it was his guilt. Maybe he saw himself in me and saying that, I must give this guy a chance. So in our classroom, generally that used to take 80 in a batch, 80. But in my batch, there were 81. That was the last one they chose. And in the college, I saw a wall of Michelin star chefs who were all Caucasians. And that is what hit my head. That why no one looks like me. And he said, because you are not a leader. You're supposed to work for them. I'm like, but why am I learning their cuisines? They're not learning mine. But what will I represent if I learn French cooking? What is the purpose of me? I need to represent my parents, my grandparents, my country. And I was 17 or something by the time I got admission. And my teacher was very, very hard on me, saying, we are not cut out for leadership. That really broke my heart, because my grandfather's family all were freedom fighters. They fought for this moment for us to be free and to achieve anything we want without anyone telling us that what we can do and what's our limitations. That really pushed me. It was a combination of way too many things, that why I'm like this, why I got so stubborn to get the Michelin.
You said it broke your heart, but I feel like, did it break your heart? Did it push you?
No, because it got a lot of people against me. In the college also. And it moved me away from the typical classroom agendas of everybody learning French cooking. There was so much for me to discover. And this college is in South India, mind it. I've only lived in North all my life. And this is where my brain exploded, understanding how diverse Indian food is. And I made friends with the locals. This was one of my favorite teacher. He passed away 3 years ago. And he was a musician and an artist. I made friends with him. I would go to his house. All his relative women would come there, because I was the only guy who didn't even speak the native language. But something about that moment, they started teaching me local cuisines. The reason I can cook so many different types of Indian food without the help of internet is it's people who taught me that time. And it was amazing what we did during that time. And that is what pushed me in a different way of saying that I need to represent something. I don't need to represent a lady in Burgundy who doesn't even know me, would never know me. Why is everybody obsessed to represent her? She doesn't care about it. I need to represent a lady in a small town in Udupi, in South India, in the temple she cooks every day. I need to bring her cuisine to the world. It all seems so superficial, because I never got a job after the college, and I was so heartbroken because everybody wanted you to master the French cuisine and European foods and to talk in the interviews. And I told the guy in the interview, I said, I don't care about them. I need to care about my cuisine. Why is nobody asking us about our own food? Nobody gave me a job. And then I went to Mumbai and I gave an interview with a chef, and he gave me a job in Leela Hotel in 1994. And that is where I worked for 2 years till I felt I need to be on my own. So I go back to my banquets in Amritsar, helping my mom and my grandmom who was struggling to keep that alive. Now I come with a lot of training, how to understand banquets and everything. And I really blossomed in that small town to do returns of, I think, $250,000 a month. It was unheard of, because all the weddings and everything, everybody will come to me because I knew how to decorate. I had the contacts in Mumbai. I'll get more people, more chefs. And I started wearing chef coat with a big hat so that people would see, oh my God, this is a professional in this small town. But that is where I forgot about my dream of Michelin. I forgot, because I just had to survive. But when I came from college, I told my grandmom that there was a wall and nobody looks like me. And she says, oh, they don't look like you because it has to be you. And that one line, just every pain I ever endured, that one line of her faith, it got me going. To homelessness, to brokenness in this country, signing wrong contracts and doing stuff. That one line kept me awake and say that, how do I keep my promise with her that she said it has to be my son? This was a very hard thing for someone without any resources coming to America and thinking that I'm going to climb the ladder to the top. There's no ladder. There's nothing to hold on to it. There's no support system in this country. And this one little promise to that elderly woman whom I trust more than God. So that's what kept me going all these years here till October 5th, 2011, when I got the first Michelin star. She passed away after 5 weeks.
Oh, wow. Tell me more about your grandmother, because your grandmother and your sister were like these people that were the exceptions of the folks who doubted you. Like, how did their support? I mean, you just mentioned how it helped see yourself, but how did that affect you?
So, because I was a very weak child, my sister was very strong. She was 2 years younger than me. And I failed many times in school. In second grade, in fifth grade, I kept failing because I could not. People do not realize that kids who are differently abled, they need little bit more support system. They need little bit more attention from the teacher. When teacher makes fun of those kids, they have no way. That gives permission to all the kids in the classroom to treat them like that.
The teacher make fun of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And those things you would never overcome in your life. Those scars are extreme. People say they heal with time. I said, the grief doesn't have any agenda. It just shows up. When you saw that, when you're a kid, you're like, how can a kid in second grade even know that he's never going to make it in his life? And teachers is telling me that I had to use the restroom and I would not use the restroom because me walking in the classroom would make so much noise with those shoes. And she's saying, oh, if somebody finds it hard to get to the restroom, imagine where will they lead in their life? And it was a funny comment, she thought. And I kept sitting there and I peed in the classroom. I got so nervous that I don't want to get up and those things, that's embarrassment. My sister was the one who was the stronger one. And nobody would dare to say anything to me. I feel that was important. Her relationship with me, and we were both never married. We never had our own families. So we were each other's biggest support system. When I came to America, she's the one who kept telling me and my brother that you need to move away, maybe move on, maybe there's something bigger for you in life. So she came and she was studying at FIT. Our bond was different. She was like a mother, grandmother. She filled up every gap in my life. And that is why her falling sick really crushed me. And she was diagnosed with lupus in 2008. And the doctor said, there's no cure. It's an autoimmune disease. You got to live with it. Maybe tomorrow is your last day or maybe a few years. We don't know. So that is why the sister became like my biggest support system of climbing this ladder, because I always felt that she's holding the ladder from the other side. And she put all her dreams on hold because she wanted to support me in everything I did. And now I'm fulfilling her dreams.
Is it true that you went into business as a kid where you knitted sweaters and sold sweaters?
It was a challenge. It was a challenge from my father. I was born in a different psych way. I don't mind failing at all, Cappy, but I don't mind failing without an attempt and a war. Without giving a fight, I don't like to fail. So when I wanted to start the business on back of my house, I asked my dad. My grandfather said, okay, you can use the space. My father said, but to make it into a banquets, you need some money. I had no business sense. I'm like, yeah. He's saying you need at least big pots, a range, a tandoor, a clay oven, a chairs, tables, plates. How will people eat? I'm like, okay, what? My mom said, yeah, we'll figure it out. My dad said, no, there's nothing at home. How are you going to figure it out? And because we had contacts in the school where we used to take the lunches, the principal told us, this was in month of May, I think, because summer vacation was about to begin, my summer vacation. And I said, the principal offered us that, can you make uniform for our school? And I was like, yes, we can make. So I learned how to knit sweaters by hand. I was pretty good. And we made, I think, 780 sweaters. Many of them were rejected. Throughout the summer vacation, I knitted, and with my grandmom, she was good. And then my mom bought a machine because it was much easier to make a sweater. But you still had to make all the borders and stitch them and, sew them in different pieces had to be added. And I learned how to do that. And we made around 10,000 rupees, which is almost at that time, maybe $150 or $200. I was so proud. I'm still so proud of that blue color of that uniform, that all the kids wearing it. I'm like, I knitted it.
Yeah, that's something to be proud about for sure.
Yeah, and it was like, imagine a guy in a small town knitting out all the time. And then, okay, this guy is abnormal. It's like, how do we make more fun of him? And he doesn't care anymore. Why is he so stubborn?
Which school was that for?
In Amritsar, Vivek Public School.
Okay. Wait, so that you started talking about culinary school a little bit, which was really fascinating. But so after studying hotel management in India, you also did NYU and Cornell and the Cordon Bleu and CIA. Wait, what drove you to keep learning?
I was not a confident person at all.
Are you now?
No, I'm very skeptical about, if you ever see me entering bungalow, you will say, oh my God, this guy has no confidence.
Even with a line down the street?
Yeah, I am the one who gets like, this can't be real. This can't be real. Every single time I have to think, this can't be real. God, please help me. Is this even happening in my life? It's happened to me. And every time I come to the restaurant, from the staff entrance, I touch this floor, touch my head, and I think that's how we used to enter Golden Temple. And I feel that I surrender to you. Whoever is running this, I surrender to you. It comes with different emotions, but it also comes with a lack of confidence of somebody who felt that he was made to believe that he's never going to walk. And wow, I'm here. And at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, the line starts building up outside bungalow. And I have to do all the flowers myself. I put them in the water. But that is very important to me because if you see my position in any of the videos I'm putting flowers, I completely bow and I put the flowers. I don't sit and put them. I just feel that that's very emotional for me. And everybody's talking. All the people who are waiting in the line, they might never be able to get in, but they're there just to tell you that, how your story has moved them and how it made them feel during a low time in their life. And somebody will tell me today is magical. After 6 months, we got a reservation, and today is my mom's death anniversary, and today is my grandfather's birthday, and he's no more, but we're celebrating with you. And all those things are happening around me. And I get even more scared. Is this real? My God, thank you, universe. You pulled me out from every place which was about to drown me or bury me or burn me, and you put me into this light again. Thank you.
That's great. Has Mom seen the restaurant? Has she been able to travel here to see it?
I've never opened a restaurant without my mom lighting the gas. So she has to come all the way. She lights the first gas, and we use that fire as a pilot. We use that to continue the fire.
That's amazing.
And she comes, and it's a ritual we do. I don't open too many restaurants, once in 10, 15 years. But she knows that. And I feel that any place which she did not have her hand when we opened, it all shut down or landed up in lawsuits. It just didn't land well. But when she comes, she lights that pilot for me, and that's so sacred.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you first came to the US, you didn't really know the language too well, and you had a rough time, right? I mean, what kept you motivated here?
Oh, my sister was studying in FIT. I couldn't. And it's not an easy industry. And after 9/11, it became tougher for us to get jobs. People forget history very soon, very short-lived memories. Before that, you could go to a restaurant and say, would you need some help? And they're like, okay, we need a line cook, or we need somebody to flip the burgers, make the omelets in a diner. They were okay. But after 9/11, New York was still going through a huge transition. And people like me, who looked like me, the doors started locking, totally closing for them. I heard a few things, and I was working in Tribeca at that time at Salam, Bombay.
You were right in the middle of it, huh?
So, yeah, it was happening right in front of us. And I saw the big transition which happened in the city. 2 things I had to take care of right away, I felt. I need to be able to communicate. You're locked in the steel kitchens. You don't need any guest interaction. You don't care anymore. And you live with same people from the same native home ground. So you speak just your Punjabi language. You don't explore. I figured out that I need to learn to communicate. At least I need to answer back. And that was one thing I felt. And second was I need to take care of my green card. I need to get myself legally bound in this country, on the city I love so much. That was amazing. And the reason I learned how to communicate was actually at the James Beard house. In 2004, I cooked there. So, August 23rd, and my sister came to help me. So they gave us a mic, they take you upstairs on the first floor and they tell you that talk to the guests. And my sister was there, and there was a big apron there. I see Daniel Bulut's signature. I see Eric Repaire's signature, and they asked me to sign it. And I'm like, no way, this is so cool. I'm no one, but I'm getting a chance here. And they gave me the mic and they said, say something to the guests. It was packed. So I said, okay, thank you. And I walked. My sister gave me a piece of her mind while we were walking back home. She's saying, what do you mean by just okay, thank you? What are you? Are you crazy? You need to learn to express. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to find somebody who can teach you English, and at least you'll have some confidence. So I really worked very hard. Cappy, you might not imagine this, because all my life I dismissed the idea of anything else, and cooking is enough to stand on its own. She said, one day you will be able to tell the story of your country, your people, your struggles, your journey. You need to communicate. Nobody here speaks Punjabi. That's my native language, and I speak so beautifully. And some people who know that I speak my native language language perfectly. They'll come to the restaurant and they'll ask me, say something in Punjabi. And they will be like, oh my God, this is like the purest version of the dialect of the language which I come from. But I had teachers and I worked really hard on writing. And then, of course, I figured out that I must see how these colleges operate in this country, the schools operate here. I was just for a self-motivation or self-confidence. I said, I did not know, Cappy, I'll be sitting here and speaking to you if you met me 20 years ago. I thought it's going to be one steel kitchen to another. Nothing more would happen. The world is totally shrunk for many of the chefs. You come to work, you're frustrated, you go back home, you're frustrated. It ends there. And New York is a very tough life for many chefs. And we take some external help, we start abusing ourselves, I have gone through all those routes. I've seen them and I'm like, no, I need to find a way to keep improving. I have to be able, I know before the interview, I took a deep breath because I said, I have something written. If I take you inside, there's a big thing written, speak slowly and breathe. That's the only thing. I spent so much money and my sister wrote on a piece of paper. She spoke perfect English. She was always confident, always obsessed with the Western culture. I wasn't. And I said, speak slowly and breathe. That is the key.
That's good. That's good advice. Like, did your background in Indian kitchens help or hurt when you first got here?
Both. Because, most of the restaurants you would see 20 plus years ago in New York, they were not serving extremely diverse Indian regional cuisines the way India has opened up right now. We were serving just the general favorites of the Caucasian markets, which stuck to Punjabi cuisine, predominantly coming everything from my hometown. I can say that menu in 30 seconds to you and you'll say, yeah, that's it. So we'll start with samosa, chicken tikka. There will be a bhajia or a pakoda. And then when you go Sikh kebab, and then for the main courses, it will always be tandoori chicken, like chicken tikka masala, saag paneer, dal makhani, and malai kofta and basmati rice, biryanis, lamb, chicken, and vegetarian. And then there'll be naan and garlic naan, and boom. Then you have your desserts will be gulab jamun, ras malai, and kheer. It was very easy for me because all those things I was like pro. But I had worked around India, and that is something I would always say that we need to add more dishes, and we need to dishes. And now you see Chef Vijay and Chef Chintan in New York, they have created an amazing ground for regional cuisines, and I'm so proud.
Hey everyone, we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Kikkoman. You know it as America's #1 soy sauce. On this season of Beyond the Plate, we're going to catch up with a group of culinary innovators referred to as the Kikkoman Kitchen Cabinet and learn how they collaborate with the brand to foster culinary innovation and cultural exchange. We're going to share a conversation with Chef Angel Barreto of Anju Restaurant in Washington, D.C. Enjoy this short discussion with Chef Angel. Angel, tell us about Anju.
So Anju is a contemporary Korean restaurant in DC. We've been around for about 5 years. We just celebrated our anniversary last month. We don't really pigeonhole ourselves to any era in Korean food. We've hopped around from the 16th century all the way up to contemporary Korean food. So there's like a lot of leeway to do some really fun items at Anju. It's been a true pleasure.
Love it. What's your most popular dish or a dish you're loving right now on the menu?
One of our most popular dishes is always mandu, Korean style dumplings. So it's pork and kimchi mandu with a seasoned soy sauce that has vinegar, sugar, kombu, and a bit of other things we add into it. But that's by far one of the most popular items.
Give me another. You're making me hungry.
The other one is our Korean style fried chicken with a gochujang glaze. Another one is our Korean style beef tartare called yukke. So it's prime beef that we mince, add into frozen pear, a soy dressing into it, some gochujang mustard, some popped basil seeds, and cured egg yolk on top. And we serve it with lotus root chips.
Sounds incredible. So in our Kikkoman bonus episode yesterday with Chef Shota Nakajima, we spoke about this term Japan adjacency, something I know you've been talking about as well. If anyone hasn't listened to that episode, please go back and check it out. Can you share a technique or two for how you use soy sauce in a non-traditional way in your cooking?
When you're talking about Japan adjacency in Korean food, they're so interrelated because the proximity to each other, there's very similar dishes. So in Korea, they have a dish called kimbap, also known as like a Korean style rice roll. We might think of it as sushi. That always goes with soy. So the interrelatedness between Japan and Korea is really strong between food. And soy sauce is one of those things both cultures share in common. And you find it in almost every facet of society in Korea and in Japan. So for us at Anju, soy sauce is such a big proponent of Korean food. We use it in almost every single application. Even we do a reverse method of like curing seafood. We brush it with soy sauce, add herbs onto it. So we cure our salmon that way at the restaurant. We also do an egg dish called geranjim, which is an egg souffle. We add soy sauce into these. Adding soy into these dishes adds a bit more umami to it in a non-traditional way that you get with salt. And we can also control it a bit more in the process, we find.
Got it. Any advice for a home cook listening on how to incorporate it into their cooking at home? Ideally, that's something may surprise our listeners.
I was talking to one of the reps from Kikkoman, and they were telling me they were fat washing the soy sauce. So a fun way that I found was when I cooked bacon at home, I was adding it into the soy sauce and letting it sit for a couple of days. It completely changed the profile, and you could add it to soups. It adds a bit of smokiness to it. You can add it into ramen noodles. You can add it to anything, even rice. It's really, really delicious. And it's a fun way. I think people don't really think about utilizing fat and soy. It's just so interesting and different.
Love it. This is all amazing. Thank you, Chef. To learn more about Kikkoman, go to kikkomanusa.com/food service and follow them on social media at KikkomanFS. Kikkoman, we thank you. I mean, you worked with some amazing chefs during your time at New York. Can I list a few and you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind about each of these people?
Absolutely.
Let's start with Chef Eric Ripert.
The greatest, the only pillar which stood by me throughout 25 years of my journey. If I have to give credit to one chef, it will only be him.
He's an incredible human. Chef Bobby Flay.
Brilliant, extremely New Yorker. I feel that for me, he's like a real New York chef. And he understands the downfalls of restaurants and the struggle it takes to run restaurants. Also understands TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Chef Jean-Georges.
He was at the restaurant just a few weeks back and just serving him. They have stood by their belief system. But he's also one of the first chefs who brought the Asian cuisine to light. From Spice Market to Wong. I don't know if you remember the restaurant Wong next to the Lipstick Building. It was an amazing interpretation of Asian cuisine. But he has been a very important spirit and a game changer in the crossover pollination of Asian foods to the American palate.
Interesting. And Chef Gordon Ramsay.
Bowing down, the man who taught me, who said one thing to me in 2007. And before that, Cappy, no one said that to me, except for my grandma. We are cooking in I don't know if you remember that he used to have a restaurant in New York on 54th Street, shut down, and the Garden Restaurant and the London Hotel. And we are cooking in his kitchen and I got him some dishes, regional foods. 2006, this is happening. And he says, "You bloody deserve a Michelin star, bro." This is what he said. "You deserve it." And I'm like, no, that was life-changing moment. People just say it sometimes for the camera, but sometimes we don't realize that how this is going to impact the person who's on the receiving end.
Were you working at his restaurant at the time?
We were working on a show called Kitchen Nightmares, and I was going to be the part of the first episode. It's still on YouTube, hanging somewhere. Once in a moment, I will get to time to watch that clip where I walk into that kitchen. He was working on Kitchen Nightmares show. I don't know if you remember. He will go and help a struggling restaurant, and this time he was helping a Bangladeshi restaurant on 54th Street, and nobody spoke English in the kitchen. So they got me as a consultant, and that was amazing. I was teaching him what new menus should be done, and it was my moment to tell them about regional cuisines of India. So we did that.
So cool. I mean, for the best. What they mean to you is just like so interesting. You could almost say the same thing about each of them. So talented, great New York chef, you know what I mean? But like each individual thing you say about them is so unique.
Eric and Sandra, of course, you don't get here without going through deep, dark tunnels. I say, so every time, this might sound very dramatic. It's not actually. I have this thing on my notebook, which first thing, remember you cross the 500 yards of sewage. This is what my book starts from, because I am obsessed with Shawshank Redemption, and he crossed that sewage to find that rain and freedom. Only one person who was with me when I was struggling through that tunnel was Eric Ripert. And he says, "You're going to make it. Just remember to be patient."
Yeah, he's the chef to help you get through that sewage.
That's two people. India's biggest movie star, Shah Rukh Khan, and he said that sometimes the greatest, that government might help anyone listening, is there. Sometimes being silent and conserving your energy is the way to go forward. That you use your energy in something else. You may turn it into fuel for your rocket and you escape. But don't fight the war which you do not need to fight it. And I felt that was a pretty amazing, that time when I needed help. These things helped me. These people really stood by me.
Well, I'm excited to ask a little more about Bungalow. We've touched on it here and there, your newest restaurant in New York. The excitement and enthusiasm about walking into the restaurant, fixing the flowers alone, and the regional food. Can you just describe the restaurant for anyone who hasn't been?
It's a dream project. My sister was at Mount Sinai and Colombia. And the only thing which kept her happy at the time was just Googling images of artwork from India and how beautiful some of the dishes I've created in the past. She didn't talk about the modern times, at how they were so amazing. And she said that, out of 1.5 billion people, you have a gift, turn a restaurant into a home. She's saying, don't just make it into business. You have to give people home. And anybody from any region of India feels that you are a part of an extension of their family. You've got to create a home for them because that's what families do. At that time, I was just dismissing the idea. I just wanted her to make through and, we were about to have a kidney transplant and everything. I'm like, just let's get through this. Let's talk about this later. She's saying, no, I might never be able to get out. But I'm just telling you that all those people need a home. And the moment they'll walk into our restaurant, it will be they've come back home. And for those 2 hours, you've got to use every magic, every training of yours. You promise me you'll speak to each one of them and hear them. And because once she had taken me to a restaurant, I can't name it. She saved the money. She was working in Tamarind restaurant on 22nd Street. She saved money to take me out for my birthday. And we go out and she knew I was such a big fan of the chef. And we ordered few things on the menu. We were both struggling, students. And she had requested them that my brother is a chef and he's a big fan of the chef and he would like to meet the chef and say hello and it's his birthday. And they didn't bring any cake out. It was a broken down moment for her. I could see that in her eyes that she literally failed on that day. And the chef refused to come out. He's saying, I only come out if you order tasting menu. That moment, I felt that she reminded me in Mount Sinai Hospital. She's saying, remember that chef said that I don't meet guests who don't order tasting menu. She's saying, don't be that. People are going to be struggling, healing, when they enter a bungalow. You don't have to worry about that. The moment you'll give them is much bigger than that moment of just dining. Do that. And I keep my promise every day, 6 months. I said, okay, I'll do this for 10 years. But I can't do this after that. But that's what bungalow means to me, an extension of home. I've never seen people respond so emotionally in a restaurant. And I've been doing this for 40 years, Kathy. I've never seen people breaking down like kids. We had somebody's 87th birthday, at the same time 90th birthday. So the great grandparents now were asked, what do you want your gift? He's saying, they want to eat from my hands. And for me, table flew in from Calgary in Canada. The whole family flew in. And the granddaughter, she made the reservations, the emails, because nothing is available in Resi. And she said that. And it was so much more. I felt it's all because of my sister. Just because she set up my moral compass saying that don't be that chef who says, order a tasting menu, then only I'll come and say hello to you. And I felt that moment of being on the table and being a part of this could be the last outing with the whole family. This is that important. And for me to take the cake and to celebrate with them and to tell them and to pour food for them on their plates and all, I could see that how it was an emotional moment for the family, that they fulfilled the dream of an elder who had just sacrificed their whole life to raise the family. For me, that's bungalow. That is bungalow. That is beyond the stars, beyond the reviews, beyond anything. And I feel that if you're able to achieve that, then because I surrendered the whole thing to somebody else up there.
I hear you so loud and clear. I think that's incredibly important, and not enough people focus on that. When I ask them about the restaurant, only a small amount have. I know more of them believe it, but some people are more outspoken about it, and I love hearing that. You just never know who is walking through your door and what they are going through in their life at that moment. What inspires your menus? I could guess, just the regionality and everything you've learned, but I would love to hear more about that menu at Bungalow.
So I do feel that there has to be freshness. You have to introduce them to new tastes. You have to, I'm not going to say challenge, but you have to almost in a space of introducing them, even if they're born and raised in India. But at that time, you want to make sure that they feel, I've never had combinations of Indian food like this. There's a small dish of ghee roasted plantains. And yesterday I was just going through, before the service, I was just tasting stuff. So I'm like, oh my God. So it's like almost like confit of plantains. But that confit, that base is heavily spiced with cardamom, black pepper, tamarind, curry leaves, raw sugar. I had it. And then that is okay for first bite. But when I had the second bite, I had a plantain chip with it. And then I had banana ketchup with it. And then I had fresh mango chutney, which is done every day with it. And it was like, oh my God, they're like one thing. In India, they will have just that plantain. It's generally with chicken, that dish. But here at Bungalow, I try to push the boundaries a little bit slowly. I'll introduce you to the flavor. Now take the second bite and you see what difference this is. Now take the third bite. So this is what I've done at Bungalow Restaurant at the menu, because it was many months and months I had space. I was on some probation, so I couldn't open a restaurant. And I got time to rethink the entire structure of the cuisine. And the chicken dish, which is like a chicken tikka, but it is inspired by a curry I had in Jammu, which is in North India, which is made, this main sauce, the ingredient is pomegranate. You think about pomegranate only in Middle Eastern cuisines in Morocco or Middle East. I've seen that used. But in Indian cuisine, it's used a lot. So we do the entire marination of the chicken tikka, remains chicken tikka, but here, one more layer of marination. And then after we take it out from tandoor, we even glaze it with this sauce of pomegranate. And then we serve it with the pomegranate chutney. And we have this pickled radish on top. And I feel that, okay, it is chicken tikka, but now you keep pushing it one step.
Do you do that with most of your dishes?
Yeah.
Is pomegranate syrup or?
3 different variations of pomegranate. Pomegranate juice, pomegranate molasses, and pomegranate seeds. So we use 3 different. So it's like, oh my God. And then people will say, okay, this is familiar, but this is new. I'm like, yeah, this is a different dimension added to it.
Okay. Are you up to 39? I know I said over 37 books. Is it 39 books you have right now?
I've written 43 books. It also includes novels. So it's a different thing.
Oh, well,
so
of course.
Two big novels which are turned into movies. Third novel I've just finished. It's about the British Empire, that how they took, I've never spoken about this actually. It's 5 years in the making, that novel. It's about the last ship which left the east coast of India to go to the Caribbean. That how Indians were cheated at that time and just taken to these islands because slavery was abolished. So I was wondering, slavery is abolished, how did so many Indians landed in Caribbean? So they figured out indentured labors and all those things. They were signing contracts and putting their thumb on a piece of paper which they've never read. So how one person finds his freedom and a couple's pain of leaving home and never knowing if they're ever going to come back. And that same time, 1919 happened, where in my hometown in Amritsar, hundreds and hundreds of Indians were shot dead by the British because they had that no congregation is going to happen during that day on a festival. And this is happening just across the street from my house. So I've seen the marks of the bullets on the walls. I wasn't there at 1919. I have connected all those dots in this unique novel. So my books are not just cookbooks, because I feel I love an extension of the stories which I have come from in some ways.
I mean, I know I asked you what you do when you wake up, but when do you sleep?
I finish when the last table leaves at the restaurant. I get the cleaning done of the kitchen. Not all cleaning, at least I start the process, I get involved a little bit, and I'm home by 1:30, and I need to soak my feet because, I'm on my feet like 16 hours.
What do you soak them in?
Hot water, and we have this salt.
Epsom salt or something?
It is Epsom salt, but it's flavored with something. Also, it's a black salt from Europe. So I put it to calm down my feet. I feel that they're going through enough stress. And then I work with my team in India. Most of my writing happens, or my TV or my movies. Right now, we're finishing my movie called Imaginary Rain. So it's in post-production right now. So there'll always be a scene which needs my help. So it's all happening on Zoom calls. We do that almost every day. That's happening. I have 2 books coming out. So the editor is one of my favorite editors. She's in Mumbai. I work with her. This new novel which I'm telling you, that research all the things happen. I'm also working on a PhD. So I divided my days on these things. And then around 2:33, I call my mom, and I always tell her the wrong time. So she gets confused. Thanks to the messed up daylight savings in this country, nobody can keep a track what's time in America. So she is my last phone call with she and my doggy are waiting for my call. That's it.
I feel like I need some time management tips from you, because how you divide it out is pretty incredible.
Without getting any personal stress. Every time I was in a personal stress or distress, I feel my creativity, imagination, everything went very down. And, we are in New York. Everybody's having a series of broken relationships. So.
All right, Chef, our podcast Beyond the Plate celebrates chefs and restaurateurs and all of the work they do to give back to their communities and beyond. And I know you prioritize social impact. So I would love for you to just kind of take the mic and run with it and just share about your Feed India initiative and anything else you'd like to shine a light on.
So during the pandemic, I had found the roughest times of my life. I was locked up in my apartment. My sister was going through a series of issues with lupus and AHUS and brain seizure. But you have to keep that happy face throughout this. What you said was so right, Cappy. You said people are walking into the doors of the restaurant. You don't know what battles they're fighting. So I was seeing the battles what India was fighting during the pandemic's beginning. They were during the lockdowns and all. So on April 1st, 2022, I started an initiative called Feed India. 2020, I started an initiative called Feed India, where I was kind of coordinating buying all the rations, doing collaborations with big companies, finding ways to get food to people who are struggling. So we focused just on old age homes, orphanages, and leprosy centers. We started with that and we were quite unsuccessful.
Unsuccessful.
Yeah, it was difficult to coordinate just using WhatsApp. And, all night I had to be up coordinating things. But then I promised my mom, I fail, but I will not stop working on this. And within 3 months, we had fed more than 80 million meals to India. And all based on collaboration on social medias, all doing collaborations when I'm taking favors from people. And it was one of the most unique things I did. And I think that inspired me, that a power of collaborations when you get right-minded people together. And we can deal with much bigger issues, what we are facing in the country right now.
When you look at that, I mean, that's incredible. Are you able to be with it, or are you proud of it? Or are you just focused on doing more?
I'm very proud of Feed India. I'm very proud of that. I think one thing which I need to do more is post bungalow. I will have a new life because I would have kept all my promises, and I will only focus on this. I will take this as my lead of having an influence in the film world, documentary world, restaurant world, food world, in the soft power of India and the governments. Hopefully, I will use that and leverage that to just work on Feed India, because I feel it needs certain leadership which you can do being in the Western world and collaborating.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say this, Chef, and I'll say it's more for the people listening, not the guests, but I always say, give what you can. You could share your voice, your dollars, what's in your pocket, or your time. You don't have to have all the money in the world or all the followers in the world or what it is. It could be 30 minutes a month that you volunteer. It could be $5. It could be one social media post, and it all makes a difference. Chef happens to have an incredible platform. But all right, I want to do a quick speed round, and then I'll just close it out with a question. What did you have for dinner last night?
We had a guest collaboration with Ranveer Barar, so we had his favorite dish that was just chicken, that pomegranate chicken.
Name a smell in the kitchen you love.
Curry leaves being fried.
Name a smell in the kitchen you hate.
Oh my God. People will kill me if I say that. I'm not going to say that.
Pass? All right, we'll take a pass. What pisses you off in a kitchen?
Indifference. And you do, it's a collective medium, but it is received as individual. You do this so many times that you forget that an individual is going to receive it. It's a big, big issue because you become so mechanical in doing it.
Yeah. What makes you happy in the kitchen?
We have the most amazing team member, Maisha. She is 16-year-old. She is one of the most special child in the world. She comes on Saturdays to help us. Now she goes to school. And when I see her working, and her jobs are very tiny, but when she does them so beautifully, she does the mango dessert. Nothing has ever made me so happy. She puts 4 raspberries, counts them, 3 pieces of mango. Just watching her gives me so much peace in the kitchen.
Very cool. I love that. Do you have a favorite late night snack when you get home?
Yeah. I have a coconut juice from Harmless, which I always keep. The coconut water, I always keep in the fridge. And if not that, I'm obsessed with these peanuts. It keeps changing.
That's fair.
I take a little bit of that.
All right. We asked earlier what you dreamt about as a kid, but what do you dream about now?
Running bungalow to the best of my ability and the team's abilities for an Indian restaurant, which is Indian to receive 3 stars from the Times. It was a big dream. It came true. We didn't see Indian restaurants perform and receive on the other side. I see such great Indian restaurants and chefs, but for a receiving end, it's a dream come true.
Yeah. Chef, this was amazing. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I love hearing about your journey and to see all of these smiles on the other side of what you've experienced and been through, and now what you're able to share with the world is pretty unbelievable.
When are you coming to Bungalow?
That's a great question. I will be in New York in about 3 weeks. I'll be waiting in line as
I'll feed you in the kitchen.
I appreciate it, Chef. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and send my best to your mother as well. I would love to meet her one day.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Chef Vikas Khanna. Find him on Instagram at Vikas Khanna Group. To learn more about his initiative, Feed India, check out the hashtag Feed India, or a simple Google search will do. We'll share links in the episode notes and at beyondtheplatepodcast.com. This episode was produced by myself, along with Ian Cohen, Joel Yetton, and Sean Petrosian. Our digital media producer is Sarah McClellan-Mead. Our music has been composed by Goldford. Find him at iGoldford. As always, special shout out to my wife, Katie. If you have not started following me yet, you should. Find me across all social media at On Cappy's Plate, or go to BeyondThePlatePodcast.com and keep up to date with Beyond the Plate. Beyond the Plate is also on social at BT Plate Podcast. If you have a moment, we'd be grateful of your support by rating, reviewing, and even hitting that subscribe button to the podcast. Don't forget to join us next Wednesday for an episode of Beyond the Drink, our companion podcast of Beyond the Plate, brought to you by our friends at Ford's Gin. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Plate. I'm Cappy, and remember, there are never too many cooks in the kitchen.